I used to work night shifts as a security guard at a small manufacturing plant outside of town. It wasn't too massive, with just a few warehouses, an office building, and a parking lot surrounded by a chain-link fence. Most shifts went the same boring routine of sitting in the office, drinking coffee, doing some rounds, and trying not to fall asleep. One night in late fall, I was about halfway through my shift. It must have been around 1:30 or 2 a.m. I had just finished a walk around the perimeter and came back inside, and everything was normal. I sat down at the desk and checked my phone. I remember scrolling for a bit, maybe 5 minutes, when I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but I figured it could be something work-related. I answered, but it turned out to be the wrong number. I have no idea if this phone call had anything to do with what was going to happen next, but I figured I'd include it anyways. After a bit, I decided to do another round, so I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. I took a quick walk around the main warehouse, maybe 5 to 10 minutes at the most. Then I headed back to the office. When I opened the door, I stopped. The lights were off, which was weird since they were motion censored on 30-minute timers. The room was dark, except for the faint glow from a monitor. I went inside, and the light turned back on after sensing my movement. Everything looked normal at first. My coffee was still there. My jacket was on the chair. Nothing moved. When I looked at the clock on the wall, I was dumbfounded. It was 5:17 a.m. That didn't make any sense. I checked my phone thinking the clock had broken, but my phone had the same time. I also had numerous missed calls on my cell phone. A lot of them, all from my supervisor, were asking where I was, why I wasn't answering, and if I had left my post. The first message was around 2:10 a.m. The last one was just a few minutes before 5 a.m. I called my supervisor back. He answered right away, sounding angry. He said they'd been trying to reach me for hours. Apparently, an alarm had gone off in one of the storage buildings, and when they checked the cameras, they saw me walk out of the office around 2 a.m. and just not come back. I told him I had only been gone for a few minutes, and I was trying to process what in the world was going on. Later that day, I asked to see the footage from the security cameras. At 2:03 a.m., I got up from the desk and walked outside. That part matched what I remembered. But then, I walk out of view from the first camera in a bit of a blind spot, and I'm not seen anywhere on any of the cameras for the next 3 hours. At 5:11 a.m., suddenly I appeared back in view of a camera, and it showed me doing my quick 5-minute rounds check in a warehouse. Then I walked back inside the office, and that's when I saw the time and all my missed phone calls. I don't remember any of those missing 3 hours of time or what happened at all. The only thing I can remember is my regular 5-minute walk around the facility. A couple years ago, I went to a concert in a city about 2 hours from where I live. I went with a friend, just the two of us, and we didn't drive back that same night because we were planning on drinking at the concert. We didn't know the area at all, but we figured it wouldn't matter since we could just use our phones to get around. The show ended late, close to midnight. By the time we got outside and away from the crowd, it was already pretty empty. We were both tired and just wanted to get back and sleep. I pulled up directions to the place where we were staying. I didn't realize until later that I had set it to public transit instead of walking, so it kept sending us down weird streets trying to connect routes that weren't even running anymore. We were both pretty drunk, and instead of switching the map to walking mode like I should have as soon as I noticed, we just kept walking thinking it would get us there soon. After maybe 15 minutes, things started to look wrong. There were no stores, no people, barely any cars, as there were now long blocks and streetlights for the most part. I stopped rechecking the route, and that's when I noticed someone standing across the street. I hadn't seen him walk up, and he must have been there already next to a bus stop sign, looking for directions. He made his way over to us, even though we were walking away from him. He caught up pretty quickly and walked a little ahead of us, then slowed down. He asked us if we were trying to find the station. I said no, we were heading somewhere else. He nodded like he understood, and then said, "You're going the long way." I said that was fine and that we had directions. We kept walking, and he was alongside us, not close enough to where we felt too threatened, as there was a good 40 feet between us. He spoke up again and said that our phone was wrong and the route we were taking would just loop us back here. I checked the map again, and I guess because I was tired or stressed, I couldn't really tell if it was right or not. It did look confusing though. My friend asked if he knew a better way. He said yeah, then pointed us down a side street saying that it was a shortcut and it would only take us 5 minutes. I didn't like the look of it as there were very few lights the way he pointed. I said we were fine and thanked him anyway. He didn't react for a second, and then he shrugged and said, "Suit yourselves." We started walking again, a little faster now to put distance between us and the man, who had gone back to just standing on the sidewalk. After a bit, I checked over my shoulder and he was gone. We kept going for another 10 minutes before I finally realized he was right about the route and we were going in a loop. At that point, I changed it to walking directions finally and it rerouted instantly. The new path didn't go anywhere near where the man had pointed us to go as a shortcut. It actually took us in the opposite direction. We followed it, and within a few minutes we were back near a main road with traffic and open places. From there, it was easy to get back. The next morning, I checked the map again out of curiosity. I traced the shortcut he had pointed us to and found out that it didn't connect to anything. It just ended after a short distance, right behind a row of closed buildings. No exits and no path through. It was essentially a dead end. I don't know what would have happened if we'd listened and gone that way. Like I said, we were drunk and already not thinking straight with the map's route, so it's a good thing we did not end up taking the shortcut. I don't think that dead-end street would have ended well for us. The following is a story that took place quite a few years back now. However, it still baffles me completely. I'm a teenager and have been in Boy Scouts for nearly my whole life, and I really enjoy exploring with my friends and being trusted more as I'm older now. A few years ago, me and 2 girls named Amy and Harriet were asked to head into the woods surrounding our campsite to find a long straight stick suitable for carving into a point. Bear in mind that I was a lot younger back then. Harriet was older, and Amy was only 1 year older than me. We had been walking in deliberately the same direction so that we would not get lost, and memorizing the surroundings as we went so we could find our way back easily. About 15 minutes in, we couldn't find a good stick to take back, so we turned around to return to the campsite. That's when the initial panic set in. The trees had almost unnaturally knitted themselves together in such a way that it seemed our path was non-existent in the first place, like it had just vanished. We looked around 360 degrees, and now everything looked exactly the same. Trees we could have sworn were different from one another appeared as all copies of the same tree. We kept walking in what we thought was the correct direction, whilst shouting out for help, and eventually came to a concrete path. It was almost like a road, but very thin, separating the forest, splitting it in two. We didn't follow the road, as it went the wrong direction to our campsite, since we had never seen a road like this in camp. On the other side of the path was more forest. However, nearby was an abandoned shack, likely used for storage or whatever else. We had no idea anything like this was out there in these woods, so we just kept walking. We eventually came to a road that we did not recognize. A woman wearing a pink and purple regatta outdoor coat walked past us, and we frantically asked her for the direction of our campsite. By now, according to our watches and Harriet's phone, we'd been walking for an hour and a half. She said she had never seen the campsite, but she pointed out the direction of where it was. We followed her advice and eventually came back to our campsite. We frantically apologized for being gone for so long and that we couldn't find anything. The leader could see all 3 of us were shaken up, and he stated confused that we had only been gone 25 minutes and that our free time was still going on. To this day, it baffles all 3 of us, as our free time was 40 minutes long, and our watches and phones had said that we had been gone for hours. The forest we were lost in felt crushing and claustrophobic, like we had entered an area that the concept of time didn't apply to. It literally was like we were in a time vortex or something, and those hours in the forest were only minutes in the rest of the world. The feeling was very strange, and it stuck with me for the rest of the camp. About 8 years ago, I was a junior in high school. It was early November, and a couple of friends and I were hanging out at my friend Mark's house. He lived just outside of town, not quite in a rural area, but far enough that there were long stretches of empty roads and some wooded areas behind his backyard. That night we got bored and decided to walk down a gravel trail that led into the trees behind his house. We used to go there sometimes just to mess around and walk or talk. One of my friends suggested we play a game of hide and seek in the dark. We played for a few rounds. During one round, while I was hiding behind a fallen tree, I saw someone standing farther down the trail. It looked like a kid, maybe middle school age, just standing there facing in my direction. When the round ended and we all met back up, I asked if anyone had gone farther down the trail and seen the kid. Everyone said no. I pointed out where I saw the kid, but when we went back and looked, there was no one there. A little while later, after some more walking on the trail, we decided to head back to Mark's house. When we got back, Mark's older brother was in the living room playing video games. We told him what happened and that we saw what looked like a kid in the woods. He said that it was probably just someone from a nearby house cutting through the woods. It made sense, so we tried to forget about it. Around midnight, we were all downstairs watching TV when we heard a knock on the back door. We all looked at each other and didn't move at first. Mark's brother got up and checked, but when he opened the door, no one was there. He stepped outside for a second and looked around the yard. Then he came back in and locked the door. He didn't seem too concerned, but we were starting to get uneasy. Maybe 20 minutes later, it happened again. This time, we all went to the door together. Before opening it, Mark turned on the outside light. As soon as the light came on, we saw someone standing near the edge of the yard close to the tree line. It was the same kid I had seen earlier, and he was facing the house. Mark's brother opened the door and called out, asking if they needed help or if they were lost. No response, and after a few seconds, the kid turned and walked back into the trees. None of us wanted to go after him, so we just shut the door and locked it again. Mark's brother said he'd keep an eye out and told us to stay inside. The weird part came the next morning. Mark's house had a camera that would record any movement. We checked the footage the next morning to see if we could get a better look at the kid. Throughout the course of the night, every 20 minutes to half hour, the same kid would appear at the edge of the yard and driveway and stand there for a while looking towards the house, and then he would leave back into the woods. The camera caught this happening at least 10 times overnight. Mark's family hasn't seen the kid since, and we still wonder if he was a lost kid or if there was something else going on. One night back in high school, I was out with friends, a completely normal night. The friend who was driving us drove all the time, and he knew his way around town perfectly, and so did the rest of us. Collectively, we had moved to different areas of town or changed schools throughout our lives, and we went to places almost every day at some point. That night, at almost midnight, we cruised around the basic neighborhoods, burning time until we had to be home. Suddenly, we got lost. Not just a turn onto the wrong street into a path, or cut into some random alleyway, but actually lost. We found ourselves on this suburban street that we had no idea existed before this. We recognized none of the houses or street signs or anything, which already didn't even make sense because we knew how to get anywhere and what the entire town looked like. We got to the end of the block thinking maybe we would recognize something, turn the corner, and be on our way. But from then on, it was this completely random neighborhood. The street we stuck to was kind of on a slope, so we were just driving down this little slope. There were no streetlights, and there was a very dim lamp on one of the curbs, and a few houses had decorative porch lights, but they were of no help. We could only see the sidewalk and the front of the houses when we were cruising right past them. The sky was pitch dark, and only the North Star and a couple stars in the distance. The blocks around this street didn't look familiar at all. The streets, including street names, were completely random, either streets we'd never heard of or streets with extremely generic names. The area didn't even fit the vibe of the town. It was almost like it was the design of a non-specific neighboring town with the same air as our town. We joked about being lost, but really we were laughing from being genuinely scared and screwed not knowing how to get home. This was well before cell phones were a thing, so we couldn't just Google Maps our way out of the scenario. You could have told us that we left town by accident, and I would believe it, even though it's extremely obvious when you leave my town, because it requires taking the highway on a very specific long road leading to towns that surround us. It would include going on one of the bridges that has multiple signs. Eventually, we somehow just ended up back in a location that we recognized, but it took probably about 45 minutes to an hour of being lost. Multiple times right after this happened, two of my friends and I, and even sometimes alone, we would go around town in the daytime and nighttime, taking various turns and streets, trying to uncover where we had gotten absolutely lost. I've tried again as an adult, but have never found it. I've never found any of the streets or the street lamps or even the same slope. Did we somehow leave town on a little path and we somehow didn't know, or was there something stranger going on?